I got, what do you call it, the typing fingers there, or carpal tunnel in the fingers or something like that? I like to write, I don't know why.
I got my business is number one because that's where the money's made, and these are sidelines. I should do so.
Go, gentlemen. Let the party begin.
Hello, this is John Frasco on Brass City Community TV. You're watching Time Hill Live. Tom's guest tonight is Don Smith, better known as the Speech Tamer. The Speech Tamer will help you to achieve greater impact by leveraging the power of words to speak with confidence and clarity. Now, it's time for Tom.
Thank you, John Frasco, our professional announcer here at the Tom Hill Live Show. Happy to be here once again on this cold winter. A couple little safety tips. John and I almost ran people over the last couple of weeks. Please don't be out walking around in dark clothes. The potholes are growing more every single day. Take the front end off your car. Hard to see at night with all the snow melting, so please be careful, watch where you're going, and those sorts of things. So, we're here live again. We have a phone number on the screen if you want to call in. Our guest is Don E. Smith. He's a man that I've met many times over the years at the Woodard Regional Chamber, and he's a heck of a good speaker, and he's fun, and he's an excellent networker. So on that, Don E. Smith, nice to meet you. In person anyway, for tonight.
Good to see you.
This is his book. So you started a new part of communication called communicology, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
So,
Well, tell us about you first.
all right, so I'll tell you about. So, I'm a middle child.
Ooh.
Okay, which probably explains a lot. I learned to speak with food in my mouth. Yeah, so probably from the time I was 5 years of age, when we came to dinner at night, it was a round table. It was less about the food and more about the discussion. And my dad would bring a topic to the table every night. It could be about politics, sports, movies, whatever it was. And we would talk about it. And we learned to have not only an opinion, but how to defend that opinion. So we were talking from an early age. And I can just remember sometimes the food never got eaten because the discussion was so intense, which frustrated my mother to no end. So it was one of those things. And then I always felt it easy to speak to people. I never had any difficulty with that. My parents did, because sometimes I told people things I shouldn't have told them, but that's what a kid does. But I remember in 6th grade, I had this wonderful teacher, Mr. Herbert Moore. And again, I'm a middle child, so I'm very precocious. And every time he asked a question, I'd raise my hand, whether I knew the answer or not.
You had to get it in
The
quick.
hand went up, right.
Yep.
And then finally, about halfway through the 6th grade, he says to me, Mr. Smith, brain in gear before mouth in motion. And I listened to those words, and it changed my whole perspective on communication. It's easy to open up your mouth and let words fly. But if you can put the brain in gear first, it's going to make what comes out more valuable, not only to you, but to the people that hear it.
It's always fun to talk to you. I'm the oldest of 7, and our table was all about food. If you didn't eat quick, you didn't get seconds. So, and the middle child, does that mean that you were getting bossed around on both sides?
Older brother, younger sister, so the older brother was the prince, my sister was the princess, and I was the court jester.
Okay, so after 6th, okay, that's a good
That
one.
was kind of my role.
After 6th grade, what happened?
So after 6th grade, I think my maturity was a bit slow catching in. I can remember seeing the world going by, but not understanding the world I lived in. And I can remember when I was 14, my parents, I was raised in a very small colonial, probably 1,400 square feet. And then my freshman year, we moved into this beautiful house my father built on 2 acres of land with a swimming pool in the back.
Which town?
It's Stratford.
Okay.
Stratford.
Near the water.
And I remember saying to my father, how much money does it take to do this? And he says, we're the average American family, 5 people, and the average American family makes $11,000 a year.
Didn't compute.
Didn't compute to me at all, right? So gaining realities in life and learning about things eventually was going to always be on me. The sources I thought I could rely on were protecting me rather than educating me. So a lot of hard lessons learned in life. When I went to school for my freshman year, the first time, I didn't do well. Didn't do well at all.
Freshman in high school we're
Freshman
talking
in
now?
college.
Oh, okay.
Didn't do well. Technically busted out of school.
Okay.
Because my parents were sending me to become a lawyer because I had this wonderful gift of gab.
Yes.
And they thought that's what lawyers do.
Well, you have to have the gift of study and reading, too.
Which I didn't have at that time. Like I said, I hadn't matured to that yet, so I wasn't a book student. I didn't do well, but we had started a pirate radio station at the college I was at. We had a fellow from Africa who showed us how to take the electricity in the building and turn it into an antenna. So we could broadcast inside the entire building. We ran a radio station. I fell in love with it, and I wanted to be a DJ. So my second school I went to was Curry College up in Milton, Massachusetts, and I studied to be a DJ, and I loved it. It's just
But
what I
that is
wanted
a
to
school
do.
of communications, correct?
It was communication school. I had a great professor. He was the news director, RKO in Boston, and I just loved it and did it really well. Then I kind of fell in love with something else called a woman. And we got to the point where we actually got married our senior year of college. And as I was getting ready to graduate, I suddenly realized that maybe being a DJ wasn't the best way to raise my family.
For economic reasons?
Economic reasons, all the vinyl you can eat and $1.75 an hour, and it's not going to do you very well. So,
John, I'm going to take you out for a vinyl dinner after.
that's right. So it was one of those things. I looked around at my other professors, and I had a wonderful professor, a fellow named Hagner Martirosian. His major job was he was the trainer for Metropolitan Life in Boston. And he would help these guys learn how to make a pitch, how to make a sales thing. I took a course with him called Voice and Diction. And he did this exercise, which to this day amazes me. He said, I want you to stand up, say your name and your major, and sit down. So 20 kids in the class, we all stood up, said our name and our major, and we sat down. He then went around a room, not only remembered your name and your major, but could identify within a half a mile where you were from.
Really?
Where
So
you
a
grew up.
dialect expert.
A dialect expert. He even was able to take kids who grew up in Co-op City and tell you which building you were in. It was an amazing skill. Well, he got me involved in a thing called forensic speech, which I'd never heard about before. That's the art of public speaking. You go into a room, you draw a topic out of a hat, you have 5 minutes to prepare a speech, and then you go in and you deliver it.
Love it. Love it.
High stakes stuff, right?
Only certain people can do that. I don't mind. I love that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
most people are chicken, correct?
Yeah, it was crazy stuff. I never thought I'd ever do that. Then I got involved in debate, and I was the captain of our debate team. I went to prison 2 times when I was in college.
Prison?
Prison, yeah.
Jeez.
To debate.
Oh, oh my God.
My
How was the food?
Well, the milk and cookies were okay because that's all we got to eat. But this professor was also the debate coach for Walpole Prison in Massachusetts, which had at that time the highest lifer population of any prison in the state of Massachusetts.
Lifer means they're there for life.
They're there for life.
And folks, this is Don E. Smith. You're on the Tom Hill Show. We're happy to have you. I'm wearing a hat because I got bad eyes and the lights in here are like 3 times the sun. So I'm sorry for the hat, if you'll forgive me. Okay, we had a prison full of lifers.
Right, and so they've never lost a debate. They've beaten Harvard, they beat Oxford. You just go in there. And these guys they're human beings who've made a mistake.
Right.
Well, one terrible moment in their life, and they're going to pay for it with the rest of their lives. So we debated them twice. The first one was capital punishment should be abolished. We had the con side, they had the pro side. The second time we went in there, it was stone walls do not a prison make. And there's all the inmates are lined up on one side, and all the guests are lined up on the other side of the audience.
And you're what, college student?
College student. We debated, and it was just, for me, it was a look into a world I never would have ever experienced in my life. When I got out of college, I went and I got a master's degree in communications.
So you went back to college again?
I went back on my master's degree.
And where was that?
Fairfield U.
Okay.
Finished at Fairfield U.
And what was that master's in?
Corporate and political communication.
Okay, good. You can get paid good in both?
Which I thought was going to be about how to do communications for corporations
Yes.
and politics, but it wasn't. So this is, lessons you learn in life. We were talking about this earlier, right? Lessons you learn in life. The fine print said it's about your corporate self and your political self.
Wow.
which is very different from corporate and political communication for businesses.
Say that again slowly. About what it's about.
Your corporate self, so how you're organized, right? And your political self, how you relate to other people.
Could it also be what side of the aisle, Republican and Democrat?
No.
Or maybe later.
No, nothing to do with that. That's what I thought it might have
The
been. but
politics of life, then.
It's the politics of life.
And by the way, our announcer's John Frasco. We wanted him on camera, and he ducked us. And he'll be here next week as our host on Tom Hill Live. John Frasco, Financial Fidelity. If you want to know more about him, you can go to tomhillradio.com. He's been my guest a few times. Johnny, thank you very much for coming and agreeing. So we're going about the corporate and the political side of you.
Yeah.
With Don E. Smith.
I don't want to tie up too much. So eventually from
You got
there.
an hour. Blab away, dude.
Eventually what happened was I launched myself on an entrepreneurial career. And I started a public relations agency, which I ran for a while. And one day I realized the printer was making more than I was from the work I was doing. So I opened up a printing business.
Yeah, but you skipped, for me anyway, because I like meeting you. Folks, full disclosure, now and again I've met him at the Chamber of Commerce, and I recently met him with our announcer, John Frasco, at a networking group he runs, and we reconnected. I would like to know, though, before you went off to start your business and you got this training in the corporate you for who are you, how did you reconcile with that? And just tell us a little bit about how long did it take you to figure out who you were after that training?
I'll let you know when I get there.
Oh, come on. This guest is tricky.
So no, the truth is, I got the master's degree, and I felt real good about it. In fact, to the extent that my wife had an uncle at that time who was very connected in the advertising industry in New York, and he arranged for me to get an interview with an advertising agency. So I can remember this to this day. I all dressed in my suit, everything's great. I step off the train in Grand Central. I walk out on the street, and it is pouring. I'm going to walk. I have to walk probably 4 blocks.
Yep.
By the time I get to the interview, everything from my knees down is drenched.
Now again, when it's raining, you can buy an umbrella at the door. I guess so much for then, huh?
Too poor, too dumb.
Okay.
Too poor, too dumb. So that's twice poor, right?
I hope you're paying attention, audience.
Pour in the pocket and pour in the brain, right? I get in, I go in for the interview. The guy comes in, and the first thing he says to me, your uncle spoke very highly of you. He says, you're a really clever guy. What department do you want to work in?
Woo!
And I went, department? And he said, yeah, do you want to work in copy? Do you want to work in placements? What do you want to do? And every term he gave me just shot over my head.
Okay.
Because in my graduate school, we had 5 weeks of advertising, 5
Not
weeks
enough.
of public relations.
Yep.
Because the school was not about teaching that skill. The skill was about helping you to think.
Okay. Yeah, and who am I?
Right. But I already had 4 years of thinking. I needed to have 1 year of skill building.
Okay.
So I walked home from that experience completely deflated.
So did you pick a department while you were there, or
No.
you were wowed out?
No, I should have been in copy because I'm a very clever person.
Copywriting,
Copywriting.
and writing stories.
Writing
I know
stories
the
and
notes
slogans and things
and
like
he
that.
sent us a beautiful set of notes, really thoughtful, folks. Don E. Smith.
So I came back from that, and I was fairly deflated, and that's when I decided they'd start this public relations business. So.
Did they call you again and say, are you coming back?
No, it was.
So in other words,
it was almost like don't bother calling us.
So if you didn't close the deal that day when he asked you what you wanted to be in, you were out.
No, I was out.
Okay.
I was out, and I was rightfully out.
Yep.
I had no problem with that. I didn't belong there because I didn't know who I was.
Okay.
And worse than not knowing, sometimes if you don't know who you are, it's because you don't know what you have to offer. And I had not done any of the introspective work that's truly, truly required of an individual. No one had ever encouraged me to do that. I never had a professor that said, you need to be more introspective. In fact, in all of Western society, we dismiss introspectiveness. We're too damn busy
Okay,
to be introspective. So
okay, you're a speech coach, you know your stuff. Simply for the audience, explain introspection or give an example of it.
Okay, so a real good example. Let's take public speaking, right? So a lot of folks will have anxieties around public speaking. That's chaos of the brain, right? Because they haven't done the introspective thinking. So part of my slogan as a speech tamer is tame the chaos, gain the confidence, master the message, right? When you have a lot of things swirling in your head, you're basically confused. You don't know what you know about what you know. if you don't take the time to figure out what you know, you don't have any foundation, confidence, there's no clarity around it, and so it's just going to come out as a mishmash.
Yeah, and you're freaking out usually.
Usually, yeah.
So will you teach
tied up in
people
knots.
how to make a speech?
Yeah, so there's a very part of communicology is to help people. What's the best way I can phrase this? So I don't call myself a coach anymore.
Okay.
I've been a coach for a very long time. I am a communicatalyst, right? A communicatalyst. I take your communications and I'm going to add a catalyst to it, like a reactive agent that's going to cause something to happen. Most people suffer from an imbalanced communication health. In fact, I think right now in society, in the world we live in, it's now an epidemic about to become a pandemic. We worry about mental health, physical health, but we don't worry about communication health. And yet it pollutes everything we do. It touches every single business. And I can share, maybe I'll share some statistics with you later, at an alarming cost, right? Because we communicate without thought. We communicate without practice.
What was the saying from your teacher, open mouth, stick foot in it?
Yeah, it's a brain and gear before mouth and motion.
Okay.
Right?
Brain and gear
Before mouth and motion. And most people don't do that. Most leaders shoot from the lip. And they speak from authority.
Well, I'll say, Tom Shute from WATR always told me, and others, don't go to any meeting without an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So I never went to the radio station without having some points, and maybe not as grand as the beautiful set of notes you sent, but I always went with an agenda, and any meetings I have. So is that something that will help people move a little far? I mean, this is old school for me.
No, that's absolute part of the process. Today, so many people go to meetings that don't have agendas, leave the meeting and can't figure out why they were there, and that's why there's meeting resistance.
True. So you got to be able to handle them. Yes, John?
Don, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
You
Nothing's
mentioned,
quick with you.
Oh, well, I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. What I notice is a lot of people, public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have. And I noticed from my own experience when I was watching people give a speech, a lot of times they seem very nervous. As a matter of fact, they're jittery or sometimes they're even shaking. How do you handle, from your perspective, how could you sort of settle yourself down so that you're more composed, that when you deliver your presentation, that it's coming out, let's say, in the manner that you would want it to, instead of jittery and nervous? And
Tell him he has to hire you before you get the answer.
I wanted a quick tip now.
Listen, I'll share a little bit with you. Some of it is proprietary, but most of it you could probably find in the textbook. So let's just talk about fear in general, all right? So you ever watch the TV show Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch?
No.
It's a great show. And the writers came up with this line, fear is wisdom in the face of danger. Right? But when I heard that, I'm watching this program with my wife, and I turned and I went, whoa. She said, what's that? I said, brilliance just came into my head. There are two types of fear, physical fear and psychological fear. Now, physical fear, wisdom in the face of danger, really important. Jump out of a plane, better have a parachute. Run into a burning building, you could die, right? Those are good things. But psychological fear, very interesting. Years ago, when scientists discovered the first black hole, they thought they had found proof of negative energy in the universe. And then they suddenly realized, no, it's not. It's just the opposite of that. It's so much positive energy that it even sucks in the light around it, right? So they kept searching. And you know who found negative energy? Psychiatrists. And guess where they found it? Between the ears of human beings.
Oh.
Because we are the only people that can see an event, an opportunity that we haven't experienced yet, and decide it's going to come out bad. It's going to be negative. And so we fill that with psychological fear.
So is people that are, I said freaking out, and he used it into other words. So people are nervous before giving a speech.
Right.
That's psychological fear?
That's psychological fear. It's a false, this is the acronym, it's a false expectation appearing real. False, it doesn't exist, but we made it real.
Right. Exists in our mind.
Exists
Not
in our
mine,
mind.
but people who are nervous.
So what we do then is we then take and we put energy into that, but that's now negative energy. If we want to get it back to neutral, we now have to find some positive energy, and now we're still at zero. So it makes much more sense, if you have an opportunity to speak, envision that it's going to be good. It's going to come out fine. Throw that positive energy into that vacuum so that it now comes a positive event, and then do everything you can to make that event positive, that speaking opportunity. And it begins with what we call a perception, right? What do I know? What's my foundation? How strong am I on this topic? Am I up to date on it? Have I stayed current with it? Do I know the latest trends and things I want to talk about? And then intention. Bring all that together and focus my intention on only doing this in a positive way. Then what you want to do is you're going to add your imagination to it. How can I present this to people in a way that it's going to make it palatable for them? When you go through these steps, you suddenly gain a certain degree of confidence. The more confidence you have in your topic, the more clarity you're going to have when you want to share it with somebody. So very often what happens, and John, this is where I think the fear comes in, we haven't said it to ourselves in a way that makes it simple for us to understand, therefore we can't say it simply for other people to understand. And we get up there and the words just start tripping over themselves. But there are basic formulas and things you can go through, but it doesn't have to be public speaking. It can be an email that's not correctly done. And I get lots of those.
Yeah. John, did you have more?
Yeah, I agree. It's a psychological fear that has developed because I noticed, like I saw a grammar school presentation where there were young kids going in front of the class and speaking to everybody, including the parents and also other relatives that were there, and they had no fear whatsoever, and they didn't have any jitters or nervousness. It seems like it's something that progresses as you get older. I think it's the fear of maybe doing something wrong and being embarrassed what is really causing the type of fear.
Well, thinking something negative is going to come ahead of time, right?
So Dr. Dwayne Dyer wrote this book on intention, and he has this line, and I bought the book because I read this line. Stress is 100% ego-driven. Okay? And that's what you're talking about. That anxiety is the stress that we put on ourselves. Kids don't have stress.
Right.
Years ago, there were a group of scientists that were studying these students. They started with them in kindergarten. And every year, they said, how many of you think you're an artist? Everyone put their hand up. They came back the next year. How many of you think you're artists? Everyone put their hands up. But by the time they got to 5th grade, when they asked them how many kids think they're artists, about half of them put their hands up.
Because?
Because somebody between the ages of 9 and 10 told them, you're not very good at that.
Oh, boy.
You're coloring outside the lines. Can you imagine somebody telling Picasso to color in the lines?
I don't know Picasso.
World famous painter. Okay? That's what happens, right? So that ego, that's where that stress comes from. That's why kids can do things that we don't do because we judge ourselves first. We don't want to fail.
People judge us. All right, so
Right.
for those of you who are watching this, I'm going to watch this after. This is good stuff. Don Smith has a website that's speechtamer.com, and the tamer is Tamer, thespeechtamer.com, and he's got a beautiful book, 52 tips for speaking, but I'm trying to let you see it, and speaking with intention, and it's excellent. I bought it for my kids. And I've been going through it more than once because some of these things for me I need to go through them 5 or 6 times. I've been on radio for 35 years. I'm not at the moment, but you can find my stuff at TomHillRadio.com. I have 9 podcasts out. John and I and others have done 8 or 10 shows here. I've never really been afraid to speak, but even now I'm giving one to 50 commercial real estate brokers, bankers, etc. at the end of this month in Groton. And I've already, first I made a little scratch list of 15 things, bullet points, and then I recorded them and put them out in nice talk, and now I'm going to start practicing it a few times before I go, and my intention is not to fall on my face and to be entertaining. So, and I should take a seminar with you, because I think no matter how good you are, you can get better.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. So perfectionism, John, is the other thing that adds to
And
it.
by the way, folks, he's over there off the camera, and we wanted to get him on camera, and he ducked us out, but he'll be here next week to talk to you directly. Sorry.
It's okay. There's this perfectionism that haunts people, right? I can tell you, I have never heard a perfect speech.
Okay.
They don't exist. And if you talk to most professional speakers, they will tell you, and by the way, they'll give the same speech 40 or 50 times, and they'll tell you, some days it was good and some days it wasn't so good, right? It's not about, the speech is never, ever about the speaker. Speech is always about the audience. What I train my clients to do is to become audience-centric. You have to be a servant, right? Whatever you're going to say, whatever you're going to share is in service of the recipient. It's not about you ego. You're not the peacock on the stage strutting your feathers. Nobody cares.
You know, I think a lot of speakers have never heard you or used that.
It's quite
model.
possible, and which is why there's a large disconnect, a huge disconnect. I learned this years ago from a fellow who is a very successful professional speaker. 2 jobs. Every speaker has 2 jobs when they speak: to be memorable and repeatable. If you're not memorable and repeatable, you have failed.
So you want to look at the audience from what I just heard and try to figure out who's there and try to tailor it to you think what the. I've had some speakers and real estate meetings ask who's in the audience before they talk.
I don't really worry about who's in the audience. I know the audience doesn't. Here's what I know the audience doesn't know. The audience doesn't know what I know.
Okay.
I'm here to share with you what I know for your benefit, and so I'm going to give it to you in a way which I feel is going to be palatable.
Yeah.
Digestible.
Yep.
Okay. There's a recipe for doing this. There's a very simple formula for doing this, like baking a cake. Too many speakers avoid that formula, and thereby they don't eat their speech, and so it becomes indigestible not only to them but to their audience as well.
This is really good. This is going to be worth watching over and over again and have your kids look at it. Tom Hill Live, Don E. Smith, our guest tonight, a friend from the Chamber of Commerce, Waterbury Regional Chamber. We've been on again and off again over the years. John reintroduced us, and John has his hand up over there off camera.
Yeah, I got another question for you, Don.
Yeah.
How do you know while you're giving a presentation if you're having an impact on the audience? How do you know they're getting your message and they're not just zoning you out?
All right, if they picked up their phones, that's the first indication.
They're picking up their phones.
Right. If they picked up their phones, that's the first indication. And by the way, that happens more frequently now than you can possibly believe. A little bit of it's FOMO. People have an attachment to the device, and so they feel they have to check it just in case. The second one is you're going to know you're detached if you're not getting the cues from the audience. You know, the head nods and so on and so forth, and seeing the general interest. The concept of eye contact, you know, looking at people, is okay, but that can be unnerving for some folks. Like if I'm staring at you for more than 3 seconds, it's already a little bit ogling. You know, it shouldn't be on that side of the spectrum. So it's a casual glance at you, and then I move on to the next person. That's life-threatening, exactly, right? So you don't want to go to that extent. The other side of this thing is that we already know the audience is challenged. I was talking to Al, the technician before.
Oh, Al 1 or Al 2?
Al 1. Al 2? Al 2. Al 2. Okay. Dwayne, Daryl and his other brother, Daryl.
Daryl, everybody. You should have been on camera with that last. I'm sorry.
So the thing was, this is an interesting statistic. The average listening age of your audience, regardless of who's sitting out there, PhDs, Nobel laureates, whatever, is that of an 11-year-old. Right? The hardest thing we do as an audience is listen. And the hardest form of communication to process is when someone is speaking to us, to process oral communication.
So is it repeatable? Is your
Right.
speech
So,
simple enough?
which is why, and this goes back from the advertising industry, this thing was created in the 1920s. Tell them you're going to tell them, and tell them you've told them. It's that repetition that helps seal it in. Your audience is going to be distracted. If today, like let's say for instance, you're doing a Zoom meeting, right? So you are no longer the sage on the stage that you were at the head of the boardroom table, the conference table. You are now a face on the single most distractive device ever created by man or woman or animal, right? A computer.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's because you're competing with a spreadsheet, you're competing with email, you're competing with a shopping list, and so many other reasons why they don't have to pay attention with you. Never before in the history of communication has the phrase less is more been more important. The less you say, the more they remember. The more you say, the less they remember.
I didn't make in my agenda for this talk at the end of the month. I limited it to about 15 bullet points because I have 20 minutes. And I probably thin it out again now.
So here's the interesting thing. We are human beings. We have an internal clock, and that internal clock is based on the number 3. We resonate to the number 3. When you give somebody your phone number, how do you give it? 3, right? And those last 4 digits challenge people. How many times do you have to repeat the last 4 digits? I now give my phone number to people 332 and then 2. Because I
I'm
know
lost.
4 challenges.
You do get this? I'm lost, Don.
Right.
I'll give it to him. 203-755-HILL, and I'll repeat it.
Okay.
And most
but
people don't answer the phone.
You used a word, not a number.
Okay, so
the word is one thing.
203-755-4455.
There you go. See, they're gonna. Somebody's saying, "What was that?"
Okay, well, usually it's on a voicemail because people don't answer their phone, so I
Right.
give it again, and then I may text it.
So you give it slowly.
Yep.
Break apart
Yep.
so they can get it because they're listening. They may not even have a piece of paper in.
Well, everybody's distracted,
Right.
true.
Everybody's distracted. So, to get back to the point, right? So, we know they're challenged. We know that listening is really hard for them. So, our job is to break it down and make it easy for them, make it palatable for them, give them rhythms that are attractive to them, especially threes. Triplets are really great. 3 points maximum. So, what I do with my clients is I say, you've got whatever your presentation, pick the 3 most important points you have. And if you got 5 minutes, then you do this. If you got 45 minutes, same 3 points, just greater depth.
Yes.
So
I guess I'm in trouble with my 15 points for 20 minutes.
the last time I was in this studio, which was many years ago, I had brought a friend of mine, Croy Sather, to be on here. Croy was getting ready to run across America
Oh,
to promote a book he had written about Think Big, Dream Big. And he literally ran across America in 100 days. So that's like a marathon a day.
ultra marathon.
Ultra marathon a day, right? And he had prepared a speech. We had worked on the speech, and it was a 45-minute speech. When we got all through with it, and he wanted people it was to dream big, take big action. So we built it around this acronym, which was SAFE. Be a student of whatever it is you want to do, take some action that propels you along the way, and finish with enthusiasm. SAFE. And he had a 45-minute presentation. First day he was out at University of San Diego, gave a 45-minute speech, ran 30 miles. The next time he got,
Oh, wow.
Next time he gave a speech, because he had speeches set up along the way, they gave him 5 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Still safe, except that now he took the bigger speech and just compressed it down. Still the same 3 points.
If I ran 26 miles to give a speech or even 100 miles a year, I would have been like mad.
Well, I don't call him Crazy Croy for a reason.
Okay, all right. How about this? I went to a CCIM meeting many years ago, certified commercial investment member. My first designation. There we go. And the speaker was teaching us how to give talks. And he said you spray paint the audience instead of just staring somebody down. Yeah. As your does that agree with the speech tamer?
Yeah, unless you want to look like a Cylon Raider from Babylon, whatever that TV show is called. No, you don't. That's too robotic. What I've taught people to do is you look between individuals. You look at groups of people. And that makes everybody feel as though they're looking at you. I was telling Al, too, before, one of the best speakers I ever saw in my life was a fellow named Dana Lamont. Dane is a former world champion of public speaking, and he's been blind since the age of 8. He makes the best eye contact I have ever seen. He can't see you, but you feel as though he's looking right at you.
Love it. So who out there in the audience would like, if they want to hire you, what's your little pitch, and who should hire you for what reasons?
So let's talk a little bit about this thing I call communication health, because I think it's really important. We're dismissing it. You know, we often think of, when we think about communication, we think about public speaking. That is a skill. You know, I like all good skills that can be honed, but let me give it in a reference to you. You're a runner, right? If I sell you the best pair of running shoes, is that going to help you?
Yes.
Right, but it's not going to make you a great runner.
No, it's just going to keep my back from hurting and.
Right, but you're still going to have to practice good nutrition.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Get your sleep. Right? There's more to running than just picking up your feet and putting them down.
True.
There's a balance for that,
Yep.
right? And we'll call that runner's health. Right? Same thing when we communicate. There's an ecology. There's a structure to it. And there's stages that are measurable that we know that people operate in that can help them be more holistically sound when they communicate. So the people that should be attracted, businesses are suffering and losing. In fact, I said I would share this. So I got this statistic the other day, blew me away. Poor communication health costs U.S. businesses up to $1.2 trillion annually, just from poor communication. It's a drain on the economic system. Large organizations, big business, is losing roughly about $62.4 million a year. Here's where it begins to hit home. Mid-sized businesses, $420,000 a year. Per employee, the costs run anywhere from $10,000 to $55,000 per year, depending on their salary range. And here's the crazy part about it. The net result is poor communication costs the average worker 7.47 hours per week to lost productivity due to poor communication. That adds up to roughly about $12,000 per employee per year. It's moving from an epidemic to a pandemic because we know the generations coming on now can't do what you and I are doing, don't care to do what you and I are doing, and have lost the ability to translate process and meaning behind productivity in the work we do in all facets of life.
And I wonder if it's more as salaries people because they're getting their pay by the end of the week. Now, I'm a commission guy, and I'm having problems with potential prospects that don't want to pay for my service but want it and want me to give it to them for free. So what you're talking about right now is I need your coaching because I have a world of knowledge. I have 2 international designations, but if you can't communicate it to the prospect and convert them to pay you, it's a problem. So I think those statistics are real.
No, they are real. Your issue that you're talking about is also a little bit more different. Altu and I had a whole meeting before you guys got here.
You're paying for that. We're pointing at the control booth over here.
So the concept here is we've gotten lazy. We've lost the tribal purpose behind communication. Let me put it on that basis. If we're not that far removed from the campfire, we're probably, if a generation's 20 years, so we're maybe eight generations, right? 160 years removed from when we gathered around the campfire, right? We didn't have radio, we didn't have television. Our entertainment was recapping what happened during the day. And those skills were, and that gave us tribal identity. We don't have tribal identity anymore. Now we have identity of personality. And so what we do is we hover around the device and we hold it in our hands, and all of our interactions between the end of our wrist and here, we can be gathered in the same room. And believe me, I've seen this and it hurts me, it pains me when I'll see a group of young people, teenagers, at a party, and they're all sitting in a room here. They're not even talking to each other. And they're all watching different things and laughing at different things, but there's no communal experience. And they don't realize this is the Tower of Babel, folks. We're losing the ability to communicate, and that's a pandemic.
And again, here we go again, because people don't read the Bible. What is the Tower of Babel? Sorry.
So these people wanted to build a tower to reach God, okay? And the parable says that God along the way said, ain't gonna happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to scramble all your tongues so you now speak different languages and you don't understand each other. And you will dysfunction. Okay.
And so there it is.
And here we are. So even though we do speak the same language, we don't know how to speak that language, and we don't know how to do it effectively. And worse than that, we don't even know that there's a way to measure its cost, but it's there.
Well, I had a lady call me twice on a sign on a property, and she leaves a message that's pretty unclear. Well, what is it? Is it for lease? Text okay too? And I texted her and said, please, I called her, she wouldn't answer the phone, and many people do not answer the phone anymore. And I politely said, I'm sorry, this doesn't work over text. Give me a call and I'll explain it to you.
Right.
And I still haven't been able to connect with her. So, and maybe it's telling me that she's not really, and John's in financial sales over here off camera, but maybe it's telling me that she's not serious. But the communication thing is what I'm enjoying talking to you
wouldn't
about.
it be a crime if she was serious but didn't know how to break through the barrier?
Well, that could
And
well
so
be
that's
it.
what I say. We are sitting on the edge of a pandemic because this next generation, the next 2 generations are going to be taking care of us in 20 years. They will be our doctors. They will be our lawyers. They will be the policemen. They will be the politicians. They will be the teachers.
Yeah, and how are they going to teach if they
I
can't
don't know.
communicate?
I don't know.
I had 2 top producing real estate people this week that I called and texted both of them, and neither one of them has called me back. It's been 3 days. So it's adults it's high performing adults too. John, do you have something else over there for us?
Yeah, I noticed a lot of the younger people, when they have to write something, they're using artificial intelligence. And they're saying that, well, it's easier just to put in a message or something or a phrase and let the artificial intelligence give the rest of the message. But what I'm saying is you can't use that all the time. And what happens if you don't have access to the artificial intelligence? You still have to communicate. So it's still a skill, a vital skill that needs to be developed. And from my own experience, I've seen a lot of people in corporate America, part of the reason why they got promoted was because they were good communicators and it was recognized and it helped their career out. Have you seen something similar to that?
Well, it's been a known issue, at least the last 10 years probably 10 years ago when I first saw this statistic come out. The single one skill that most corporations look for in managers and leaders is their communications ability, how well they communicate. But I'll take this, because this was in last week. This one blew me away so much. I'm a baseball fan. I love baseball. Last week there was an article on MLB's website. They polled a whole bunch of managers to find out what was the one skill they considered the most important part of their job. What do you think it was? Their ability to communicate to their players. They said, we can get strategists, we can get statisticians, we know all that stuff, but we have to know about our guys. We got to know what makes them tick. We have to keep the lines of communication open so we can know where they are in the moment.
Yeah, any team has to talk.
Yeah.
And the coach has to make the team work better and talk with each other and take his coaching.
So this goes into what the issue of psychological safety. So we were talking before about fear being a psychology issue. Psychological safety is a communications issue. Many, many people don't feel psychologically safe at work because they can't really say what's on their mind. They're not being encouraged to speak up. Sometimes the emperor is naked, and the emperor needs to be told he's naked.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're afraid to tell the emperor he's naked because they don't feel psychologically safe. There's a story.
And they don't want to get fired.
Right, and there's a story that goes around, and one of the stories, this is a great story. It's about Saturday Night Live, Lorne Michaels.
Yep.
And it talks about one of the reasons why that show was so successful. Two things. Conversational turn-taking and ostentatious listening. So when he would have a writer's meeting, you didn't leave the room until everybody had a chance to speak. And that created psychological safety. And then everybody had to be heard, so there were no distractions in the room. You had to audaciously listen. Pay attention to people. Once you did that, that team bonded. It coalesced. Those are two communication skills. Speaking and listening.
And it was the audacious listening, also listening with intent?
Yes, it is. Listening with intent. It's putting down, it's not face up or face down. Don't even bring it in the room. Leave the phone out of the room. Unless it's necessary to the meeting, it shouldn't be in the room.
Okay, you're reminding me, this is what I'm reading now. We'll talk a little bit about this. You're an awesome guest. Thank you so much for coming up tonight.
It was a pleasure.
And John, I wish you were on camera. John Frasco, my producer, will be on for me next week. Don's book is Speaking with Intention. It's an ebook. It's easy to get, and I think I gave you his website a few minutes ago. That's on page 2. Which is thespeechtamer.com, and that's Tamer. And maybe I'll just, I was talking about the book. Now, when I said listening with intent, a book that I read 30 years ago when I had a few problems was called Wake Up Call. And one of the you don't have to sleepwalk through life, love, or your career. And some friends of mine were having he's a PhD guy, and this helped me. And I had it in my library, but then I loaned it to somebody 8 or 9 years ago that was having trouble, and they never gave it back to me. And I know I needed it for these people that had trouble. So my wife helped me, and we bought 3 of these used. And I gave 2 out and kept 1 for myself. And here I am now. I'm reading again, Connecting the Head with the Heart.
Good.
Which is a skill that you have to practice, like everything you talked about, Don. And the other one was, instead of listening audaciously, it was listening with intent.
Same thing.
So that's a book I recommend. Is there anything you're reading presently? I think you said off camera that you listen to books.
Yeah, I've been listening to books, and I'd listen for 2. So I'm a radio guy, So
You like to listen to it, and you trained as a DJ.
right. So I like to listen to the narration. I like it when it's not just read to me, but it is acted and portrayed to me, and I can find myself being in that moment.
On audio.
On audio, being in that moment with that voiceover actor. See, they don't even, the real ones, good ones, aren't narrators. They're voiceover actors.
Exactly.
And they bring the character to life.
Well, wasn't that where radio originally came
And
from?
that's exactly where radio came
They
from.
paint pictures with words.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is an interesting thing. I don't know. I used to be on faculty at Post University, and one year they asked me if I would help out and teach English as a second language to 4 Chinese students who were on campus. And they came from different parts of China. One was from
Was that when it was Techio Post?
No, it was in between.
Okay.
In between. One was from Mongolia, one was from Southern California, and so
He
Southern
gets the details,
China.
folks. He pays attention to the details.
So I was working with these guys, and one day, and trying to establish a discussion, a dialogue with them, I said, "What's your favorite sport?" And the fellow said, "Basketball." I said, "What was that?" He said, "Basketball." I said, "You mean basketball?" He said, "Yes, basketball." And I said, "No, it's basketball." He said, "Yes, basketball." And I suddenly realized to me why we don't understand each other, why we have such a barrier. English is a language of word pictures, where we put words together to string out a picture. Chinese is a language of picture words. So where we say basketball, they got one symbol that says basket and ball together in one symbol. Basket, a ball. So their favorite sport was basketball. But they could not say basketball.
So you weren't able to solve
Right.
that particular dilemma?
Right, and just because of a cultural
Yep.
barrier there. They don't have articles. They don't use the word they're,
Well, when I went to
so they have to put them in here.
When I went to Kennedy High, in the town plots section, we'd ask kids where they were from, and they would say, Town of Plot. We'd say, it's Town Plot. No, Town of Plot. So that's a perfect story. All right, John, what are you reading?
I'm reading the Daily Stoic. It's Greek philosophy, and it talks a lot about inner peace, setting boundaries, keeping yourself calm and passive, keep yourself in a direction. You want to go on a particular vector, keep going on it, don't let outside influence affect you.
And are you using that personally or for your private money lending brokerage business and consulting?
I'm using it in all facets of my life because I think it's applicable to everything.
Okay. All right, so then I have one that I worked hard on reading called Mankind's Search for God.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Tower of Babel,
Babel, yep.
Babel, and thank you for explaining this. Speaking about other people and other languages, this book takes you through every religion in the world and then takes you back to who the real God is. And I think they're basically saying that most people don't really search for God. They're hoping just to get him. But, you know, it's the information is in the Bible if you were search and read. And this book took me a few weeks to get through. Riveting, but it's work to get through it, to stick with it.
It has to be. You know, things come from, like I said to you, I matured late in life. I'm still working on that. The right thing comes to you at the right time, but opportunity doesn't knock. Sometimes it rings the bell, and if you're only waiting for the door to knock, you're never going to hear the bell ring.
That's great.
So you're never going to know when that opportunity is going to present itself. So years ago, when I first got into coaching, so that was 1999, there wasn't even an international coaching federation. There was nothing. There's just a bunch of people. We're going to become coaches, you know, and it won't be involving basketball or football or
Ton
any
of
of
plot.
that. It's going to be coaches. We're going to try to help people have better lives by coaching them through some of the difficult things. And some of us were qualified and some of us weren't. And many of us went back to the industries that we came from. I didn't have one because I'd been self-employed all my life, so I didn't have an industry to go into. But I began to listen, I began to think. And it was the first time, we talked about this real early in the show, when I began to think about my life, when I began to become introspective. And I picked up a book by a fellow named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Now, it took me a year to learn how to pronounce his name. But he's world-renowned. He's one of the founders of positive psychology. This was in the year 2000 when I first got involved in positive psychology without knowing I was getting into positive psychology. And he wrote a book, it's called Flow. It's the study of optimal performance. He traveled around the world to try to find out what it was. What's that thing that puts people in the zone? like Michael Jordan used to say, when he was in the zone, it was like shooting a pea into the Pacific Ocean. He couldn't miss.
I never heard that before.
Right?
He owns a NASCAR team now. Continue.
Right, so it's that kind of a feeling, right? When you're doing something, you don't even know, time passes and you don't know. You're just in it because you love it, right? Something you do for nothing. You'd pay to do it rather than be paid to do it. It's really that joyful. Csikszentmihalyi traveled around the world, and he came back and with this elegant formula, which when I read it, the light bulb in my light went, and it's never gone off. It's been on, it'll never go off. It was challenge plus immediate feedback equals joy.
That's a good one.
And I began to think, what happens in the workplace? Most people get the challenge, get no feedback, but maybe once a year, and so they find it hard to swing their feet over the bed every morning and go to work. That communication channel is broken, right? That feedback channel. But look at athletes. Even when they strike out, that's a challenge. They got the feedback. They come back to the dugout, somebody pats them on the back. Guy hits a fly ball, it's an out, but maybe the runner advances, he comes back, he gets a pat in the back. A guy gives up, he gives a brilliant presentation of work, crickets. No applause, nothing. In fact, somebody's waiting like a bear in the woods to attack him at the end of his presentation to pull some blood out of him to make himself look better.
Negativity.
Negativity, right? These are the things that need to change. This is the world we live in. This is where the toxicity is. This is why I say it's pandemic. Our communication health is crippling us. It's crippling people in the workplace. It's why 80% of people hate their jobs. And by the way, people don't leave their careers. They just quit the toxic places where they're doing them. And the number one thing that causes toxicity is bad communication.
John, did you notice that he's repeatable and he's brought us back to where he started? You're the man. You'll be invited back.
I hope
really,
so.
really good. And did you read the book on flow? Of course you did.
Oh yeah, I did. I mean, it's at home. It's got hundreds of these little Post-it note flags in it all over the place. In the book, you get challenged, right? He says, your life is not complete if you haven't read Dante's Inferno. Okay, I'll start reading Dante's Inferno. My God, that was a trip.
Well, when you get reading a good book, you can go get down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to go there because you're the guest, but quickly, I'm reading, this is one I can read every day, Confessions of a Commercial Real Estate Broker. And this is a fellow that holds my designations, CCIM and SIOR. I had breakfast with him by accident in Kentucky at the spring SIOR convention a month and a half ago in November. And we were talking about music. He's a drummer and I'm a music fan.
Yeah.
And we got talking and he goes, I wrote a book, I'll send it to you. And this, you read about his a day in a life starting January 1st. And
awesome.
I started it when I got home in the end of November. So now I'm at January 1st. But this is, it's great. It's smart guy and what he learned every day. Now back to you talking about giving pitches. I'm 1/4 through this book called Pitch by Danny Fontaine. And these groups, and you could help them, I bet, they have to make a pitch to get a big piece of business. And this is teaching you how to make these pitches. And one thing I gathered out of early on was sometimes you'll be asked to give a pitch to get some business, and all they really want to do is suck your blood, find out what you know, and they're never going to hire you. So this is good. I'm not finished with it yet. And this one I read John, you got another one? No, good. You got another one?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so this one I read called The Sequence Twice, and I met him, Alan Buchanan, A Personal Journey and Proven Framework for Commercial Real Estate Success. I'm reading books by elite brokers that tune up my game because, I want to tune my game up.
All of that's good. It's kind of interesting. So
and you could help people tune up their game.
So while we're having this trouble communicating, right, in general, the communication health is bad, we also have this wonderful opportunity we've never had before. The whole infrastructure of publishing has changed. And anybody can write a book now, and anybody can publish a book. And
is this why you did this?
Exactly.
In this way?
Exactly.
It's an ebook. You can get it on the internet, and you can get it.
It's available on
e.com.
No, I can't think. Amazon's Kindle.
And I'll bet you if you go to thespeechtamer.com, he'll tell you
There's
how to get
link.
it. Oh, you can get it at the Kindle store on Amazon.com. That'll be $3 for me having this right at my fingertips in your book. So, and he starts it off, welcome, Mr. Smith. Brain and gear before mouth in motion. Where did we hear that before? Mr. Moore, my 6th grade teacher. I bought this for all my kids, so and I'm using it. There's 52 tips. What number is the best tip in the book, Don?
Could be number 1.
Oh my God! Talk about taking the easy answer.
It could be number 1.
Okay, break down complicated ideas into clear, relatable language that eliminates barriers to understanding and invites listeners to stay focused without feeling overwhelmed. Simplify your communication strengths. Trust by making your ideas easier to remember, easier to share, and easier to put into action after you finish speaking. That's 1. And if we go to, and I probably shouldn't cheat and read number 52, but thank you for this, and thank you for coming on. I think you got about 4 minutes to say anything that we missed, or maybe John has a trick question before the
Yeah, I'll take another question.
store's
I'll
over.
give him a tough one.
About
Don,
time.
a lot of times when I see people at the chamber, they're giving presentations, and you usually see people usually fall into one or two categories.
Which chamber?
The Waterbury Chamber. They usually give a short pitch, short and sweet, and they probably leave out some of the information that they probably wanted to deliver. The second type is they start talking and keep talking, but they're not really conveying a lot of information. What advice would you give to the people that seem to be talking a lot longer and not giving out as much information?
Usually that is a symptom of lack of intention. All right? You got to have a plan. So, very simple. In fact, I shared this with the chamber at a networking event. What problem do I solve? Why do I solve this problem? How do I deliver my solution?
Love it.
And if you just use that as your framework. So my name is Donnie Smith. I am the speech tamer. I help people heal their communication health. Right? That's the problem I solve. I deliver it with incredible amount of passion and commitment to you so that you can leave messages that live beyond the moment.
Love it. Well said. All this takes practice, folks. Never go to a meeting without an agenda. I hope we get Don Smith again. 1 minute, your pitch to the live Comcast audience here on Brass City TV and YouTube.
Start thinking about your communication health. I think that's really important. Think about how you relate to other people on a daily basis. If you're managing people, get to know more about them than what's on their resume, and you'll find that those small casual conversations will build loyalty within your team, create the psychological safety people are looking for, and your organization will function at a much higher level.
Feedback. And so you can find him at the speechtamer.com, T-A-M-E-R. You can get this book, Amazon. It's at the Kindle store, Amazon.com. John, you got 30 seconds. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be here next week.
Don, it was an excellent, a lot of good information, very entertaining, well presented. I mean, you're top notch when it comes to giving some presentations.
Thank you.
I'm TomHill.com, TomHillRadio.com. I'm wearing my SIOR hat, my St. Vincent de Paul mission. I'm one of their announcers. We'll have road races with them soon. The lights in here are too bright, and I can't handle the eyes. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks to Brass City TV. Appreciate Al 1 and Al 2. We'll see you all next week. John will be the host.